So, Cliff, we are sandwiched between two debates, the vice presidential debate, which happened at the beginning of this week, and, of course, the presidential debate, which will happen this Sunday, just literally hours away, practically. But let's start with the vice presidential debate. And it was an interesting debate insofar as if you just look at sort of the meta stuff about it, right? It was the least watched vice presidential debate in the past at least 3 cycles. I think in 2008, when it was Joe Biden, Sarah Palin, 70 million tuned in. And that's 70 million 8 years ago. We had 70 million for the presidential debates this time around, but our population has gotten larger. So that was a lot of people in 2008. And in 2012, there was about 60 or 50 million tuning in for Biden versus Ryan. And this time around, 35 million people tuned in for this debate. And so really...
In some ways, I'm surprised it was even that many.
Well, there was no reason to believe that it was going to be super exciting, and frankly, it wasn't.
Right. Well, neither of these guys are known as being what you would call super exciting. They both kind of hew to talking points. In the end, it was a little different than I had thought, because, everybody sort of, Tim Kaine, very avuncular, likable guy and all of that. And he was more aggressive than I expected, I think, than a lot of people expected, and went after Mike Pence a lot. I could see that. I thought in the beginning he did it too much. I thought he got better as he went on. As usual, I think that the media's response to that is as atrocious as it was to the size of Al Gore back in 2000, because we're not running a city council race here. This is for powerful positions running this country, and so stylistically, I think it's fine. Give credit where credit's due. Mike Pence certainly had a calmer demeanor. He sort of got a little bit more ruffled as time went on, but he did that. I mean, to me, and again, this may just be me, the Mike Pence sort of sad, shaking his head, or why did you, so much of it seemed so fake.
He really had that aggrieved, that sort of whiny, aggrieved guy down pretty well, though, right?
Yes,
I mean,
he does. Well, he's a former talk radio guy,
right?
I mean, it's sort of he's had media exposure for years, media training. But I find that stuff, the fake voice that he put on, so he sounds deeper and more like a, just to be irksome, but apparently not everybody felt that way. It seems like in one post-debate poll where they actually had people in a focus group at CNN, vast majority thought Tim Kaine won, which I thought was interesting.
Well, to be fair, that focus group was in Richmond, Virginia, where Tim Kaine was a mayor many times.
Okay, well, then maybe that wasn't really fair.
There was.
I was not aware of that. A snap poll by CNN ORC had it at 48 Pence, 42 Kaine, and that seems more, very similar results. And so Kaine was a little more aggressive, yes. But the big thing, to me, the big question is how we were going to handle this afterwards. Because the bigger question about this is that, the media has finally started doing at least somewhat of a better job in covering Donald Trump, in that he is, he's proven himself to be completely incompetent and unbelievably corrupt, and just basically a pathological liar. I mean, the Atlantic recently just endorsed their third candidate, the third time they've endorsed ever. First one was Lincoln, the second one was LBJ, and they listed this series of traits. I mean, they perfectly nailed Trump. I mean, one after another. He just has every bad trait. So finally, you have some news organizations calling him a liar, and saying that word out loud. But when it comes to just people ideologically lying, right, and not lying about various other things like Mike Pence, I mean, Mike Pence lies constantly.
Let's get into that in a second. I want to just stay on one point that you made here, is that one of the things that I feel like I really took from this vice presidential debate, a broader lesson from this. I mean, look, we didn't have a Sarah Palin figure here who really could do damage to a ticket. Like, I think Sarah Palin was uniquely bad choice and actually dragged. Her pick made actually attacked the narrative of John McCain. I don't think Paul Ryan was that type of guy, and I don't think either one of these vice presidential nominees, I guess, are of that ilk. So the interesting thing is that what constitutes winning a vice presidential debate? Because, it's pretty obvious when you're running for president, what you want is people to respond well to you because they're the one you're voting for. And, that ends up getting reflected in the following polls. That's why we know that Hillary Clinton, the trajectory of her campaign changed after that first debate. We'll see what happens after the second. But in other words, there's two things, and you're alluding to this. One is, what is the response of people in the moment to these two individuals? But the fact is that nobody votes based upon these VPs, at least, broadly speaking. And so the issue is less about how did, because I felt like you did when I was watching this debate. I was like, Tim Kaine he's not winning. He's not winning. Mike Pence is winning. But what became clear by the end of the debate, and I think for me it became clear when Tim Kaine says, I've asked you 6 times about things that Trump says, and you won't answer them. It became clear to me that they basically said, you're going to go out there. It doesn't matter what people think of you. We need to create a couple of moments in this debate that we can create into ads. And all we need is you just basically raising all of Trump's greatest hits again and making Mike Pence react to it. And that's exactly what happened. And then, I
think that that's the purpose. Well, let me let you finish, and then I'll jump in.
Well, I think, because you're starting to raise the point about the aftermath of the debate and what the media did with what was there. And if we know now that only 35 million people, that's a lot of people, but that probably is basically everybody who is already engaged in this stuff, right? Anybody who's already made up their mind, they voted in the primaries, people tuned in for it, at least they were there in the beginning. The real message that comes out of this debate is the one that's disseminated the next day via spinsters, the media, advertisement buys. And I got to say, the day after the debate, and even just hours after, was radically different. I want you to take a bite at this apple. We got to take a quick break. Talking to the great Cliff Schecter. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. We'll be back in a moment.